Start winning at the races with Daily Racing Form's new mobile pass performances, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures and expert analysis and selections. Go to drf.com/best and get the power of DRF in the palm of your hand. Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off the late 50-cent pick four at Belmont Park on the 4th of July with race number 8. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3 Poker. We're going 1 mile on the Widener turf course. Field of 9 entered in this race with the 8, It's All Relevant, entered for main track only. The Poker morning line favorite, not named It's All Relevant, that's Chad Brown, of course. He has the 9 value proposition, the 2 valid point coach second choice on David Aragona's morning line. But really the key to this race is the 7 Got Stormy. Is she the same filly that terrorized the boys last year? A lot of people are jumping off the bandwagon in droves.
Yeah, that is sort of the key to the race. You're right there to focus in on that. We'll see if she can just sort of bounce back. I'm one of the people who does not believe that she's come back nearly as good this year as she was last year.
If she does come back in the Poker, I think she's going to get a great pace scenario to work with as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. No disrespect to Dream Friend. Graded stakes placed over soft going last year in the Bernard Baruch. He might be able to make the lead in here. But if the old Got Stormy had this pace scenario, Mark Cassie would be licking his chops, figuring that he could reel in Dream Friend and hold off the closers. No excuses on this pace projector for Got Stormy. Now it's up to Tyler to get this position.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't put her right there. I don't see why he wouldn't put her right there where the pace projector has her, Dan. It's just a question of whether she'll kick in this race or not.
That is Johnny V riding. Tom used to saying Tyler Gaffalione. I Got Stormy. Johnny Velasquez will be riding. Should get a great trip anyway. Here's Dream Friend, the number 1 horse that earned a big buyer speed figure last time out, a 96, just matching up the numbers that this horse earned towards the end of the 2019 campaign. He is a really solid horse. He projects to make the lead in here, and he's kind of lightly raced with a little bit of upside. I respect anything Johnny Terranova puts on the track. This horse is going to be a square price, and I think he should be considered in the exotic mix at the very least.
Yeah, I could see using him underneath as well. I don't know if I believe he's good enough to beat this field, Dan. But obviously, since they've switched him to turf, he's very consistent. He shows up. He runs his race every time. He's got a lot of speed, and he should make the early lead in here. It's going to be, I thought it'd be tough for him to win this race, but I could see using him somewhere.
The horse with arguably the most upside potential in this race is the number 2 Valid Point, who won his first 3 starts for Chad last year, including the Grade 1 Secretariat. He was the beaten favorite in the Shadwell Turf Mile, and that's one of the better 10th place finishes I think you're ever going to see, because he was just mired in traffic in mid-stretch. If he had a clear run, he would have been a lot closer. I'm not saying he would have won. He would have been a lot closer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, going back to that race last year, I mean, I was kind of surprised that he was made the favorite in that race. But when all was said and done, yeah, the way he got bottled up in traffic for basically the entire stretch, you do think he could have done better than finishing 10th in there. And we'll see what happens. Prior to that, he just looked really good to me, Dan. And, he was just sort of winning those races while looking like he still had more to give every single time. I think there's a lot of potential here for Chad. And it's one thing that I just want to point out is that so far at this Belmont meet, Chad's horses have been winning as usual, but his horses on the turf that he's bringing back off of layoffs like this, they are all running.
And I like that Chad stopped a little bit on this horse. Remember, he was still a 3-year-old in the Shadwell Turf Mile against some salty older horses like Sway Dwa, who came back to run 3rd in his stake in Dubai, and March to the Arch, who came back to win the Sunshine Millions and then placed in a couple of Grade 3 stakes races. Chad was going to run him in the Hollywood Derby around Thanksgiving time, and he just wasn't training right, and he decided to stop on him, and I think that's the right move. This horse might be a very good 4-year-old, and he's got a lot more tactical speed than you may think. I think he's going to just sit right behind Dream Friend and try to grab the pocket early.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It just feels like he's a very tactical horse. He could fall into a real trip here.
Mike, I wonder if Hawkish is ever going to build on the promise he showed as a 3-year-old. It seems like 100 years ago when he won the Penn Mile and he was 5-1 in the Belmont Derby. It's just a shame that He just hasn't been able to stay sound for trainer Jimmy Toner. Last time out in the first defense, though, I know he was 44-1. He didn't have a great trip. He kind of got steadied and shuffled back leaving the gate. He's last turning into the stretch. He altered course wide, and he came with a little bit of a run. It was nice to see some life. He has some recency over these. I'm just not sure he's the old Hawkish, and he's going to have to be the old Hawkish to win this.
Yeah, I sort of agree with your take on this horse. It feels like he never really panned out, and it seems like the layoffs and the injuries maybe just got the better of this horse. He just hasn't been quite as good since he started back as an older horse. He ran fine last time, I thought, but that was a race where closers did really well, and he took advantage at least a little bit.
After Seismic Wave, the number 4 finished second in the Pennine Ridge last year, I think there were high hopes. Listen, he was the favorite in the Belmont Derby. He got beat that day in the Saratoga Derby, compromised by pace, and then just kind of disappointed in a couple of races. I think shorter is better, and I think Bill Mott's realized that. He brought him back in the 7-furlong first defense. He came with a good run, albeit off of a fast pace. I like him at a mile. I think he showed in that English Channel against weaker horses that this might be his best distance. He has to run faster, but I think he might have it in him. He's a sleeper in this race.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, I think he makes some sense in here. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is just a matter of him wanting to, be more of a miler type of horse, and that'll really work to his advantage now as a 4. We'll see what happens. I'm not, way against him. If you told me that you liked him and you were going to bet him, I wouldn't argue with you at all, but I went in a different direction.
Social Paranoia, the number 5, 2 starts back in the Sunshine Forever. He just gave a very sharp horse, his stablemate Halliday, too much of a head start. And Halliday, in the form he's in right now, when he got the jump on Social Paranoia, there was nothing Social Paranoia and Edgar Zayas can do. They were very late to change leads. He got up for 3rd. What happened last time? Could you make excuses? Was it the wet track? Was it the fact that he got caught up in a pretty fast pace in that Grade 2 Fort Marcy? I think a better trip's coming for him here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't really have a big excuse for him last time. It wasn't his best performance. But, it wasn't terrible either. We'll see what happens. I liked his first 2 starts as an older horse down at Gulfstream. As you mentioned, he was pretty badly compromised 2 starts back. And I like his versatility as well, Dan. I feel like, they could take him back, but if there's not a lot of pace, I think he will be more forward. I think both of those things could sort of work to his advantage. And here, I'm going to use this horse somewhere.
I have a lot of respect for Arnaud de la Cour. This is a tough spot for his charge, however. The 6, Eons, 20-1 on the morning line. This horse had a 4-race win streak snapped in the Saratoga Derby, a race again that was controlled on the front end by a thread of blue, and Eons might have been pace compromised. That being said, this is his first start in 11 months, Mike, back in against older horses with some very light buyers against tough horses.
Yeah, I mean, they just found a really tough spot to start back off of a layoff like this. I mean, Delacour has good numbers off of, longer layoffs with turf horses. His numbers are actually very good, but this is not an easy spot.
As we mentioned in the Open, the Got Stormy from last year, the one that reeled off 6 consecutive triple-digit buyer speed figures and beat the boys in the Grade 1 4-star Dave, would be very, very salty in this race. We've seen her now on 3 occasions. She only has 1 second-place finish to her credit, an okay effort in the Kilroe against males. Last time out in the Bogey, she chased from the start. And the winner of that race, Rushing Fall, is a very, very nice horse. Got Stormy, though, tired in the stretch, and I was a little bit disappointed that she could.
Well, she just, I don't know, Dan. To me, she didn't run well at all last time. I know a mile and a 16th is pushing it for her. I think a mile is really what she wants, but she was bad last time. She was bad at Tampa off the layoff. And even though she ran a little bit better in the Kilroe in between, I mean, she had no excuse not to win that race. I just don't think she's the same horse this year.
It's all relevant. Entered main track only. Will move to the 9 value proposition. Like his stablemate, Valid Point, he is 3 for 4 in his career. I think Chad showed he liked this horse. He showed his hand. After he won his career debut, he ran him in the Pennine Ridge, even though he was running against some really tough horses. It didn't work out in the Pennine Ridge. He was up close to the pace, which was very, very surprising that day. Since then, he's come back with 2 wins, including this performance off the layoff last time out, an angle that you've mentioned. His horses have been running at this meet off the bench. He's second from the left, red and white silks. Coming wide in this race, this was a race where Hidden Scroll, who was the favorite, threw the jockey and ran off. After that, Value Proposition was able to sit behind the leaders and run him down. I think it was a more workmanlike performance than anything else. I was a bit surprised this Fig came back so fast to 100. If he runs that race, he's going to be real tough.
Yeah, I liked that effort from him. He was very confidently ridden by Irad in that race. I mean, he basically waited till they got to the stretch to turn this horse loose. And you saw how easily, I mean, that was Dream Friend who was on the lead in there. You saw how easily he closed that horse down. I mean, he basically did it all on his own. As you mentioned, he showed a lot of potential last year as a 3-year-old. I just feel like he's getting better all the time. And in a lot of ways, I sort of felt like he was the horse to beat in here.
And that's where I'm going in here. I liked his tactical speed. I like his closing kick. We take a look at our top picks. I'm going to go with Value Proposition. Mike's going with Valid Point. It's Chad for both of us. You're going with the Chad Exacta.
Yeah, they're really the only two horses that I liked in this race. And I'll be honest, I didn't have an easy time deciding between them. I'm going to take Valid Point, though, hoping that he fires fresh like a lot of his stablemates have been doing and that he gets a good trip in this race.
2954 for Mike, 9124 for me. It's the Grade 3 Poker. It kicks off a 50-cent pick 4 on the 4th of July with an approximate post time of 5:13 Eastern. Best of luck.